Welcome to Advocate Today. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. The Internet Archive is working to provide access to more than 625 billion web pages, including free access to books. But the archive might be in legal jeopardy. The Internet Archive was founded by Brewster Kahle. The San Francisco-based organization works with libraries to provide access to books and web text. Publishing companies, including HarperCollins and Penguin Random House, say this violates copyright laws and sued to stop it. Recently, a judge ruled in the publisher's favor, but supporters of the archive worry about censorship, predatory licensing fees, and title removal. A group of artists, engineers, and activists are behind one of the largest online protests in history. They believe technology is a force for liberation, not oppression. I spoke to Fight for the Future campaign and communications director Leah Holland about her work advocating for digital rights. Hi, welcome Leah Holland, campaign and communications director for Fight for the Future. Thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm very happy to be here.
Everyone is so clearly tied into tech, and tech has proven that it can be an incredible tool for progress. And then also it has proven that it can be a tool for folks to do things that are not great. Would you talk about that dichotomy of the tech and how it dovetails with the work that Fight for the Future does?
Yes, I would say that generally tech is an extension of humanity. We're the ones that are building it. When we talk about a computer or an algorithm or any sort of thing that seems, mysterious or magical in tech, what we're really talking about is something that is built and trained on data that humans have generated. It is not some sort of mysterious process that is unchangeable or is something that we can't affect as people. It is, in fact, just an extension of ourselves. And we really take that to heart in all of the advocacy work that we do, really calling on both corporations and governments to take ownership of the world that they're creating with the tech products that they choose to use, with how they choose to legislate, people who are trying to build alternatives to big tech, for example, or folks that are just trying to make sure that real, true knowledge and information and diverse voices get to everyday people. One of the glaring lacks of human rights on the internet, by and large, is the right to privacy. And we're running a major campaign right now, MakeDMSafe.com, which is calling on all of the different entities that have this window into messages that we think are private, messages that could be subpoenaed and used against us if we are seeking abortion care or helping an abortion patient, or a family that is discussing gender-affirming care for a child. We think that these messages, which are intended to be private and presented as private, should actually be private, which is why we're pushing on Meta and other corporations, Slack, et cetera, to end-to-end encrypt the communications between individuals that really they should have no business looking at or retaining the data of. So that's one big one that we're pushing on. And we are also working against abortion surveillance in particular, both through the Make DM Safe campaign and also largely through engaging with the frontline activists and abortion rights organizations to really bring the tech angle and the broad concerns that digital rights activists have about how our intimate personal data might be used against us if we seek care, if we assert our bodily autonomy. And then, and in addition, in a different vein that yet it's all connected, we're also working on a campaign for digital ownership at libraries, which essentially says that a book, no matter what its format, as ebooks and audiobooks get more and more popular, should be owned and controlled and preserved by a library, just like a print book. And we find that incredibly important and basic and fundamental to everyday people, not only as they seek real and true and accurate information from one of the most trusted sources in the country, a library.
Would you talk about how that work that you're doing regarding digital books and Battle for Libraries,
How does that kind of intersect with what we're seeing at brick and mortar libraries, where books are being banned and censored, and queer and Black histories are just being pulled off the shelves?
It's all, as I said, extremely connected. I mean, just this week we saw Missouri say, we're just going to defund all of our public libraries. We're not going to let people who can't afford to buy books access them anymore in this state. And we'd rather do that than let people read queer and Black and brown voices.
Yeah.
And so there are these efforts around the country. One of the most well-known ones is the Brooklyn Public Library, which has essentially launched a program that allows youth across the nation, even if you don't live in Brooklyn, to get a library card and to check out ebooks and read the stories that may be banned where they live. And that is universally celebrated as amazing. But if you aren't a youth in the US, one of the big alternatives that you have to access this information is via the Internet Archive, which is a nonprofit digital library that might be best known as the people who created the Wayback Machine, which is archived like the history of the internet. And so what they've done, because major publishers will not allow libraries at all to own and preserve digital books, they just say you have to enter a licensing agreement, you have to essentially become Netflix. The Internet Archive is buying print books or having them donated to the library and scanning them and loaning those scans to people all around the world, anybody who wants to read them. And that's an incredibly important move for them to make, because it asserts again that necessity of having many librarians all over the place owning those files, owning those stories, and preserving our diverse history for generations to come. Because there's also the fact that many diverse voices, the publishing industry is historically and is currently extremely white, cis, and het. Like they're not a very diverse group of folks, and it is difficult as a marginalized person to be platformed by this industry. And so a lot of these diverse voices are being published digital only. They're in ebooks, they're in audiobooks, they're in different formats that are being preserved less, that are more likely to be, erased, whether you're talking about through censorship initiatives from governments or what have you, or even just Amazon deciding, well, it doesn't benefit us to have this up on Kindle Unlimited anymore, or what have you. So to round that all up, essentially, there's this huge lawsuit. Major publishers are suing to stop the Internet Archive from being able to own and preserve digital books. And I want to make the very important point that it's not just the Internet Archive that is doing this. It's the Boston Public Library. It's the San Francisco Public Library. This practice has gotten more and more popular over time as libraries want to be able to preserve diverse and the mid-list and the out of print and the just the books that are less accessible to people and offer them in the format that's most convenient to them. And this lawsuit currently has been essentially decided by a lower court, ruling in favor of the publishers in this decision that essentially stated that libraries don't matter, that it's only the hypothetical profits of the publishers that matter in this scenario, which is fundamentally untrue and incredibly concerning for the future of access to knowledge in this country.
Thank you so much to Leah for joining me. Visit fightforthefuture.org to learn more and to get involved. We are advocating for all at advocatechannel.com or wherever you stream. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and I'll see you next time.